Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar by Data Platform Geeks. My name is Rohit, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Today's session is on Azure Machine Learning Studio versus Power BI, and our today's speaker is Yana Berkovich, who is an MVP from Canada. And our today's moderator will be Satya Ramesh, who will be helping us with the Q&A and the regular smooth running of today's webinar. eDominant Systems, a lot of you already know about eDominant Systems and its popular brands. We have SQLMaestros, under which we do a lot of masterclasses on advanced data analytics technologies and SQLs as well. We have the learning kits, the video courses, and the hands-on labs, which are a unique way to learn. I will speak about them later. Moving ahead, we have the Peopleware India, where we offer a lot of corporate training. If you want to learn more, you can visit our peoplewareindia.com. That's our official website. And of course, we have our popular ERP product that is called Expand SM ERP. And last but not the least, we have the Data Platform Geeks community, which of course involves you. It was formerly known as SQL Server Geeks, but then we had to change the name to Data Platform Geeks. Under Data Platform Geeks, we do an annual conference called Data Platform Summit. It was also formerly known as SQL Server Geeks Annual Summit. Later on, we had to change the name to Data Platform Summit. We had recently, last year, we had concluded DPS 2018, and this year we have announced DPS 2019, and the registrations have begun. So here you can see the theme and logo for DPS 2019. Our tagline says empowering data and AI transformation. It'll be a three-day conference as usual. 22, 23, and 24th August are the dates. This time we will have 3 days of pre-cons. On 19th, 20th, and 21st, and we will have 18 pre-cons spread across these 3 days, delivered by experts, international experts from Microsoft Redmond and 16 other countries. And of course, it will be happening at Radisson Blu in Bangalore. This was a picture that was taken last year at DPS 2018 during Rohan Kumar's keynote. Rohan Kumar is the corporate vice president of the Azure Data Group from Microsoft Redmond. On the stage, you can see him and his team taking over. So there were more than 1,000 attendees that you can see in this picture. So DPS 2018, in a nutshell, you will see 3 days of learning, like I mentioned, 22, 23, and 24th for the summit, and 19, 20, and 21 for the full day classroom trainings called pre-cons. DPS will be focusing on 7 tracks. There will be 100+ sessions and over 50 speakers who are internationally renowned and subject expert. So, and one of the main reasons why DPS is such a massive hit among the people is that there is 0% marketing and 100% learning at the event, and you will get to connect with some of the world's best. So dps10.com is our official website. You can write to us with any queries or to book for bulk nominations. Contact at dps10.com would be the email ID, and the contact number 9606482133. Satya will be putting down all this in the chat window for you to use. So go ahead and register yourselves, book your seat for August DPS, and we would like to see you at the summit with your team. So if you want our DPS team to invite your company, you can see an option given in our homepage at the website, that is dps10.com. Would you like the DPS team to invite your company? Click on that, and our team will get in touch with you and tell you the procedures. An important reminder is that we are the last week of March. DPS pass price increases on the 1st of every month. So whatever the price is right now, the pass price will be increasing on April 1st. So go ahead and hurry up and book your seats for DPS for the lowest price. So why should you really care? I already mentioned it. You will get deep technical content delivered by some of the world's best from Microsoft Redmond and 16 other countries. If you are very serious about reskilling and upskilling and staying on top, DPS is the place for you. And it's an opportunity for networking with the world's best and making connections for life. And of course, world's best infrastructure at Radisson Blu. And DPS involves the community. So what does that mean? Whatever you learn, whatever you see, the content delivered by the sessions that you see by the speakers is all voted by the communities. The community means you. So the sessions submissions have been coming in. So we will be putting up for voting, and you get to decide what you want to learn in DPS. So look out for that. You can give your feedback, and you can vote for the sessions you want to learn at DPS. And of course, highly curated content and disciplined execution at the summit. So next steps, evaluate Data Platform Summit. We have all our previous content put up on our website, the kind of sessions we had, the kind of speakers we had on in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. So go ahead, visit dps10.com, and you will find all the testimonials and other videos, important videos, with which you can make up your mind whether to attend DPS or not. So the DPG core team, Amit Bansal, who is the founder and president. We have Manohar Puna, who is a vice president. We have Avnish Panchal, Vijay Mishra, Vijay Reddy, Sandeep Pani, Prince Rastogi, Surbi Agarwal, Sakaram Shinde, and Devlata Nath, who are our regional mentors from all over India. These are the eDominer teams across India, the top one from Bengaluru and the bottom one from Kolkata. This was last year at DPS 2018. You can see the DPG core team and the eDominer teams on the stage with Amit Bansal. So special thanks to Microsoft for supporting us in our community initiatives. Without the support, all this wouldn't be possible. The DPG community, you are all part of it. Just a quick reminders of what you can access. You get to access a lot of free videos, labs, magazines, and a host of learning resources which are shared by the speakers after the events. Yes, you can download all of those resources for free once you're the member. Just to remember, DPG community is Asia's largest data analytics community. And we have also recently come up with a new meetup model, which allows you to host meetups with our help in your own company. So if you have any such interest, you can fill out the regional mentor form that is in our DataPlatformGeeks.com website. You can become a regional mentor, and you can write to us that you want to that you're interested in the meetup model, and then our team will get in touch with you. That will also be an opportunity for you to be a regional mentor for us. So if you have any questions beyond this webinar, you can write to us in our Facebook groups, the LinkedIn groups, and our Telegram group on mobile. There are thousands of community members in these groups who will answer your questions, etc. So do join these groups. YouTube, yes. So a frequently asked question is if the webinars will be recorded and be shared to the audience. Yes, all the Data Platform Geeks webinars are recorded. All our past webinars are recorded and uploaded in our SQL Server Geeks YouTube channel. So youtube.com/SQL Server Geeks, that is our channel. So do not miss that. Go ahead and subscribe for all the latest webinars. Even if you miss them, you can rewatch them again later. We have a lot of SQL videos that we do, and those are they are hosted in youtube.com/SQLMaestros. And yes, that's about it. So without any further delay, let's get started with this today's webinar. Over to you, Yana. All the best.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for the introduction and all the information. You can hear me all as well? Rohit?
Yes, Yana, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I would like to share my screen. All right. So hello. Okay, hello. My name is Yana. I hope that everyone can hear and see. It's wonderful to be with you this afternoon, or for me, 3:30 a.m. And we will be talking about Azure Machine Learning Studio versus Power BI today. And so I'm Yana. As I said, I'm a BI analyst and dev. I'm a data platform MVP. Just came back from the MVP summit. I'm a consultant, and I do a lot of things, mostly with Power BI and SQL and Office 365. So my website and Twitter handler and so on and LinkedIn are here, and the presentation was uploaded to the website of this webinar. So what we are going to do today is talk about a little bit different ways of implementing very basic machine learning and predictive analytics into of Microsoft tools, which is Azure Machine Learning Studio and the Power BI. What I would like also to add is that this is a one-on-one session, so it's not going to be very deep dive into those tools. You to be able to follow up and get the understanding of what goes where and how it is all connected. So let me start by sharing with you the difference between machine learning and AI. Artificial intelligence. If it is written in Python, it's probably machine learning. If it is written in PowerPoint, it's probably AI. Now, this is kind of a funny slide with the source from actually security conference, but it kind of emphasizes how much confusion sometimes there is in this field. So first of all, what we're going to be doing is comparing the two tools, Azure Machine Learning Lab and a Notebook versus Power BI. We will review the getting the data. We understand that data eventually is the key, processing the data the different ways, doing the actual prediction model, very, very basic and simple first prediction model, and a quick summary if we allow. This session you can follow up by simply going to Azure Machine Learning Studio, and after all the introductory slides will be over, about 10 to 15 minutes, we will start to actually dragging and dropping things into the Azure Machine Learning Studio, and you should be able to follow up and get the bits and pieces of your first prediction model. So just you don't need to download anything, just log in to go to Azure Machine Learning Studio and log in, and you can start the demo with me. So let's start the introduction portion of this hour. Why are we even doing this? So first of all, we are doing this because we want to create value. We want to optimize our process and our decision-making process. After all those kind of data visualization tools and machine learning tools and so on are tools that eventually will do the data-driven decision support for us, meaning that there is somebody who needs to make a decision, and those tools are needed to make his life easier. It's easy to forget something, this very simple truth when we are going after the latest and greatest in the data visualization model. So the first thing is the descriptive analytics, and it goes, of course, from value to difficulty by those two axes. Descriptive analytics answers the question, what had happened? Then we've got the diagnostic analytics. Why did it happen? So, for example, if my car drives suddenly slower, what happened? Why did it happen? There is a reason behind. So what happened? My car drives slowly. Why did it happen? The arm brakes is on, and I have a little indicator in my dashboard that says that my arm brakes is on. Happened to me. Don't know how many of you it happened as well. Then we've got, from this simple scenario, we have got what will happen, predictive analytics. You don't need to be a very big analytics. So say from this study case that, from this example, that eventually the brakes are going to be derouted and broken. And then how can we make it happen in this case, prescriptive analytics, which means how we making this not happening again, or if it's a positive event, to make it more and reoccur in itself. So this is the foresight. So we are going from insight to foresight. And we usually with Power BI are somewhere between here and here with insights, and between the diagnostics analytic, what actually happened, to predictive analytics. But with the Azure Machine Learning Studio, we can even go farther and give us the results of how build a better car, what will be better in our car in the measure that we have chosen. Now, what is the Azure Machine Learning Studio? And I hope you get the cultural reference of this notebook. Before immigrating to Canada, I didn't, but nice movie, please see. So we are not going to be talking about the movie. We are going to be talking about Azure Machine Learning collaboration and drag and drop tool. You can build, test, and deploy predictive analytics solutions on your data. The models best can be consumed by BI and data visualizations, by other BI and data visualizations tools. So for example, if you have built your model itself on the Azure Machine Learning Studio, you can later on consume the results by Power BI or even by Excel or any other data visualization tool that you see. So now we see the first use of this platform. Is mostly not to display the data, but to work with data and then make a prediction model. Jupyter Notebook run on Azure is also called Azure Notebook, is another tool that we'll review a little less today. And this tool is also doing basically the same, but with code. So if you're not interested in drag and drop tools, Azure Notebook will be your best friend. And you can do much more, of course, because there are it's free from any drag and drops and definitions, just code. And more capabilities are coming with the subscription, and the audience here, and this is the important definition between those two tools, the Power BI and the Azure Machine Learning Studio, are data analysts, statisticians, actuary, data scientists, and it is not for the end users. Most of you are familiar, of course, with this little tool. It is called Power BI. And Power BI is actually a suite for business analytics tools that deliver insights. You can do data processing on Power BI, data visualization tool, and a little bit also of predictive analytics to predict what is going to actually happen. This dashboard, for example, is mostly descriptive analytics, this one with the big and flashy pyramid. And this dashboard is basically telling us the migration of fish from one place to another. And it just describes it. It doesn't say what is going to happen next year to the fish and how they are going to upgrade, not upgrade, fish don't upgrade, where are they going to migrate. It just describes us what actually had happened. And you can pay attention here that the audience are business users and managers. Users are IT, finance, marketing, manufacturing. It is to be used by everybody who is working with data, which in nowadays is basically everybody. One of my clients is a company that is renting and monitoring trucks and that that are moving dirt from place to place and other clay and so on. And one of the things that they need to understand is where exactly those trucks are and what are they doing and what are the sensors that are attached to them saying. So Power BI is used a lot to monitor those trucks and understand what exactly is happening to them in every given time. It's not it's doing preventive maintenance, but it is not doing any kind of predictions to those to what is going to happen in the future to the trucks. So what is currently part of Power BI? And this slide has to change every month or even less. So just to avoid the confusion, what are we going to use and what is going to happen here? So Power BI Desktop, first of all, this is something that we are going to use. This is the report authoring tool. We can access data from various data sources, more than 100, and it keeps growing by day. Power BI Services Pro or Premium Capacity Plus application. We will touch a little bit the Power BI services. We are not going to review any applications. Report Server is the on-premise Power BI solution. Mobile Power BI data get that allows us this data connection real time unless our data sources are actually in the cloud. And embedded analytics, which is part of Azure portal, and we will not review today. So we are mostly focused on Power BI Desktop and showing a little bit of the Power BI services. Who, what, and why? So let's summarize the what we have talked about. Azure Machine Learning service that created and developers and data scientists, while Power BI is for business users, end users, and also developers and data scientists can use it, so it's analyst friendly. The main goal of Azure Machine Learning is predict the future. Well, Power BI is visualizing existing data for business users, which means predictive analytics versus descriptive analytics from the first slide that you have seen. So let's show the tools for whoever is not familiar. If you are going to Azure Machine Learning Studio, and this is the screen that you are going to get, you can, whoever is following me, just welcome to go and see this screen. You can have several projects there. There are many models that you can see. So this is the first screen, Azure Machine Learning Studio. And you can see, you can start any kind of experiment. No, I don't want to do right now. And you can start any kind of experiment. It can be one of the saved experiments that already exist here, just to learn the tool and also to understand what's going on. And for example, there is a very famous data set for predicting clustering group into data with irises. So this is something that trains using k-mean clustering. It's algorithm. We will go into this a little further. You can always simply open it up and see how it works and work with it. You can, of course, save your own projects and experiments and work with it as we speak. So this is one of the experiments, for example, that I have saved, and we will work with it together. What is happening in Power BI? So Power BI is the powerbi.com. You go to powerbi.com. This is where you can sign in, and you can download the desktop version. And this is where you are downloading the Power BI desktop. And this is what usually is going to happen when you are opening the Power BI desktop that you have downloaded. Now, what do we need to do? Eventually, what we need to do is to get the data. And data is the main piece and the main central piece of our event here, because everything that we do with data. So let's see, starting with the PowerPoint, how are we going to do it? All right, getting the data. So the circle of prediction model. First of all, what we are doing for any prediction model is the first step, data collection. We are getting the data from somewhere. Then the next step will be the data preparation. We prepare the data because data can contain arrows, can contain null values, and so on. And we have several ways to do that using either of our tools. Sorry. Then we have got the data manipulations. This is the place where we create measures, we create calculated measures, and so on. We are doing manipulations with the data, we are summarizing, we are making the data look at the business rules as we think it should have. Then we're creating the model, and this is what we've talked about. So for example, a model can be can be something that is algorithmic and created already, like k-mean clustering, which is a known model, or linear regression is another model, or any kind of other regression. And after we created the model, we train the model and we evaluate the model. So eventually brings us back to data collection. Remember that I said that that we can visualize any kind of results that the Machine Learning Studio predicts. So the same thing, we can take those results and make them as the data again. Or we can start from scratch collecting a data that is better for us. So if we are using example such as those trucks with the sensors, maybe we should collect data from other sensors because it did not predict us after the evaluation the future of the break fix or the performance correctly. It all starts with the right question and business goal. So this should be the first step for you to understand what you want to do, is actually why we are doing it. So our case study is not trucks, it's not cars, and it's not anything else. It's about, and it's not the irises to classify, it is about the airplanes. And everybody, of course, had a flight and the flight was delayed or arrived later than expected. And this is a very famous data set that of flights during the month of October, and that can be worked with and predicted on. So this is our case study when the flight is delayed. Where did I get the data to start with? So a lot of people that trying to get into either data science or machine learning or even Power BI and descriptive analytics are struggling with, okay, where do I get the data? My organization doesn't give me the data. My sample data is small, is very small. So for you, please go to one of those sources. Those are great data sets to start and to begin with. In Power BI, there is a whole site. In Azure Machine Learning Studio, we will see where we're getting the data in a few seconds. And we can have SQL data sets for testing and prototyping also in our Microsoft site. There is an edX course about machine learning and about Power BI, and not just edX, there are other courses, but those data sets you can actually use. And Kaggle data sets, which are data sets for competition in a site that mentioned here. It's not connected by any means to Microsoft, and you can download the data sets there and start your models and predictions with those data sets. So there is always a place to look for your data. So getting the data, Azure Machine Learning versus Power BI. In Power BI, we can get the data using the get data from a data source. In this case, it's a CSV file that I've downloaded. In Azure Machine Learning, we have a data set that can be uploaded. About the visualization of the data, in Azure Machine Learning Lab, we can visualize the data in a very limited way, and I will show you just the first ways to visualize it. There are other visualization models that we are not going to touch today. And in Power BI, of course, sky is the limit. So let's see those things. If we go back to Azure Machine Learning and we go back to an experiment of our choosing, this is an experiment that I have opened. So let's zoom in a little bit. All right. There in the Azure Machine Learning Studio, for whoever is following, there are saved data sets. Those are data sets, let's say them out of the box, and this is what I was referring where to take the data from. And there are samples, and from those samples, for example, we can take airports code data set, and we can take, of course, the flights delay data. And this will be already our data source. So how do we even know that this is what it is? So we can do view dataset, and then it's going to download our CSV file. It's going to take forever. Or we can visualize our data, and this is going to be on the server itself. So in visualize the data, we've got the data visualized for us already, and even with some kind of description. So in this case, description airport ID, this means nothing because it's just airport ID, but we can see for example, departure time, which can be very meaningful to our prediction when exactly the flight had departed. We can see all those results in a histogram, or we can also change this into a bar chart graph. Just for us to understand the statistics is already out of the box. Those things in Power BI will take us time to understand. Well, here we see the minimum, the maximum, the STD, and other statistics as all out of the box completely for our data correctly. All right, so let's go to Power BI. In Power BI, we will do the get data, and we'll choose text CSV, and we'll choose our file that we have pre-downloaded here. We can also, of course, put it from Office 365 or from SQL or from any other data source. So here we'll go to edit query because I've already connected this data. And oh, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, let's do then the other way. text CSV. Okay, flying delay, open. Okay, so now you can see the data in real time. I just change the location of the file, and we can edit the data before we downloaded it. And this brings us to the next stage, that is editing the data. If, for example, we have things that we don't need, for example, we've got a day of the week and it's not important for us, which is, or we have got the arrival delay, maybe it's in units of minutes here and we want it in seconds or hours, and so on. Those are manipulations, data manipulations can be done in the Power BI. We can remove null values, we can remove errors, and so on. Here, I'm just going to do close and apply for us to have this data set to use in the future. All right, let's go back to the presentation while it is uploading. So we can also want to visualize that. We want to visualize the data. So the data visualizations can be, for example, here. Count of origin airport and destination name and carrier. So this is what we can do in Power BI. It's a lot more than what we have done in the Azure Machine Learning Studio, because Power BI is mainly for descriptive analytics and for data-driven decision support before the prediction, just to see what had happened before and make the decision accordingly. And here we can see all the arrivals and all the delays, sorry, by the airport name, and they are sorted by the one that is mostly delayed, which is NLI, Newark, and then you go to Chicago, and until the less delayed reports. So how do we share this data? For whoever is familiar with the Power BI server, with the Power BI on the web, we basically just publish the report to the right place, to the right workstation in the web. So where it ends up on the web, it in our organization, it ends up in the right workspace. So remember this is our main Power BI screen. So if we go to our workspace and we can find our flights workspace, and of course I won't be able to find it because it's live webinar. So this is the flight workspace. We have two things there. We have got, first of all, our report that was published here. And this is what I've shown on the desktop version. And we have got questions at the end. Sorry about that. And we have got also a usage metric for this report, who has used this report. We can add filters, we can add drill through, depends on our report. The second thing that we have got, besides the workspace and the report, we have got also the dashboard for this report, and all those visuals can be pinned from our report using this to our dashboard, Flights Predicts dashboard, and this is how we pin this dashboard. And then we can view them as dashboards and ask the question about our data. Okay, for example, day of the week, and we can say we can flights on time performance and day of the week, so we can see how many days it was described for, and there are many other questions that we can add, that we can ask on our data using the dashboard. Yes, I know there are many questions at this point, and sorry, we will have to continue for now with the presentation. So I showed you the two ways to visualize the data, to get and visualize the data using the Power BI and Azure Machine Learning. You can do the quick insight in Power BI, and those are one of the things I haven't shown, but you can recognize those graphs from the dashboards. When you click on Quick Insights, it basically gives you insights about your data that are automatic. So this is one way of Power BI to give you insight and a little bit of, let's say, prediction somehow, at least some kind of a trend for what is happening with your data, and those are your options. Cleaning and preparing the data. Now you can see that I've been talking mostly about the data, and I still am talking about the data even before the models or anything else. And in Azure Machine Learning Studio and in Power BI, there are different ways of cleaning our data. So I showed you a little bit in Power BI how am I, where can I remove null arrows and where can I add or remove any kind of summary inside the data after I am bringing it to Power BI. In Azure Machine Learning Studio, we have modules that are editing this data for us inside the Azure Machine Learning. So we can edit metadata, clean missing data, convert that into categories from range, group the data, and use SQL queries. After cleaning the data and preparing it, we can manipulate the data. We can select columns, we can create join through SQL query managing, and we can use R and Python in both of the base of the platforms, or just DAX and Power BI for this data manipulation. Power BI has Q&A functionality and insights functionality, but Azure Machine Learning, you need to build a model for that. There is no Q&A in Azure ML, which is probably going to come there eventually. So let's go to what happens to the model when we predict it in both of them. In both of them, the cycle is very similar. We're getting the data, cleaning the data, preparing the data, adding columns, calculations, and so on, missing data types, dividing the data, choose the model, train the algorithm, score, evaluate, and save as a trained model. Now, at the end, we can even create web service so other people can see our model. As I've shown in the beginning, that there are web services or already trained model. Well, in Power BI, we will get to connect to the data, clean the query, create measures on dimensions, which is like preparing the data, create connections using the ERD model, create the visualizations. This is something we don't do in Azure Machine Learning, but it's our descriptive analytics. Then we can Q&A it, or we can even do a mini prediction model there. So we have several questions that we want to ask our models, and this is something you can do with the data set by yourselves later on, which is which airport is the most late arrival, how does the weather affect the flight being late, what is the correlations between those things, and those are automatic questions that can be answered by the Q&A models or the basic description. So let's go back to Azure Machine Learning. This is the interesting part. Where in Azure Machine Learning, we have dragged the first model from the left side, which is flight on time performance. And the second model is airport core dataset. Both of them are in here, and we have explored it a couple of minutes ago, where we get this data. Now, in order for us to understand which flight belongs to which airport, we need to do join data. So we join data between the flight and the airport code. And this is where we are configuring on which columns this data is going to be joined. And if we are launching the column selector, we can see that I have origin airport ID is the data that I've chosen to join them by, because this is what we are checking. And after joining the data, we are going to the next data stage, which is cleaning the missing data. And in the columns, we want to see all columns, and we want to clean all the missing data. So we're basically removing all the missing rows. We cannot have prediction model if data is missing in our critical evaluation, because then there is a problem, and we cannot do the prediction itself. Now, the next thing is in Power BI. How are we doing all that? So we already got the data. And now the data connection with edit queries, I've shown you how to edit the data. And after we're getting the data from the CSV file, then now we need to do the data connections between them. So in data connections, we've got this connection between airport codes and flight on-time performance. So now we'll have the airport code connected to the flight on-time performance. And then we can visualize the data, which we have talked about already. And what we will get is this. In Power BI, now to be on the same page, we've got this one. Arrival departure, average departure delay 15 minutes by dates, and we have all those dates and our average departure delay. And this is for all the airports for date and departure delay airport. What is the question that we are asking this model? The question we are asking this model are exactly, let's analyze this data and see what is going to be in the next date, how much by minute is going to be the average time delay. So the way to build a prediction, a very small prediction model here, is basically add a trend line and add a forecast. So it's that simple as that. We are forecasting. Now, what is the forecast length? Can be 10 points, can be 5 points. It's whatever we are choosing. Right here it's 10 points, so for him it's 10 dates. And this is also, of course, very influences our precision. We can ignore last observation. For example, our last observation can be not very good for some reason, and sometimes it happens, we're ignoring it. And also we want maybe to check our last observation, so we'll ignore it and see how good our model did. And we can have the accuracy here, 95, 99% of accuracy. Also, seasonality can predict. So, for example, here we have only 1 month, but if we had around the year, we could say that how many of our points are seasonal points, and we apply. Now we can see how good our data did, but judging by those 5 points, how good the prediction model has done. So this black line is the prediction model, and upper bound and the lower bound of the prediction model of the flight being delayed by minutes by specific for a specific date. And this is an average for all the flights from all this model. So this is something that Power BI does out of the box, and it's based on regression eventually. So any other model is any other model, we will have to use custom R or custom Python code. And or if there is already existing data visualizations that can be used for that. So this is Power BI does its best to do some kind of prediction. So while when this is in Power BI, what is happening in the Azure Machine Learning Studio? This is a little better. First of all, we will clean the missing data, then we will partition and sample. In every type of prediction, we cannot predict for all the population. We always need a sample size and the population size to check and see how well we did. So in this model that we've dragged from here, partition and samples, we can always find this model if we, for example, didn't drag it yet. So you can see right here, sample and split, partition and samples. There are other ways to sample and split the data. In Power BI, we did not do that, but we just ignored the last 5 observations, I believe, the last 5 days. So this is how we got our sample for the prediction and could compare how well our model actually did. And those are the parameters that can be configured for this data, and we can also view the output log. So we are always choosing our sample size. Then we can choose several ways to predict the model. So one of them can be linear regression, which was already in Power BI, and the other is the Poisson regression. Those are models that were already trained and already configured. And they are based on a Poisson and on which is for random case use usually used, and the linear regression. And our goal eventually is to evaluate which of them behaves better with the current data set. So the way we do it is again dragging the Poisson model from here. Poisson regression, We're dragging the linear regression from here and connecting them to the models themselves. So in each one of those models, you can see those little arrows that are connecting from source to destination. So from our source, the clean data, we are going to the partition and sample. This is our next stage. And from our source of the linear regression model, we are going to another model that's called cross-validate model. Cross-validate model is very interesting because it gets two inputs. It gets the data set from partition and sampled, and it gets the model itself. And the goal of this is to departure delay, to get the departure delay column predicted with the linear regression. That means using linear regression if the flight is going to be delayed or is not going to be delayed. So whoever is configured, please select the model and add this as a column, departure delay. Same thing is going to happen to the Poisson regression, cross-validate model. We are going to select the departure delay. Again, it's a very, very simple 101 tutorial of what we are doing here. After the cross-validation model, we are going to the evaluation model. And this is when we are evaluating between the models that are here. So score data set here, and also score the data set to compare here. And something went wrong with my implementation, but we will not debug it right now. It's probably a data type that is not matching. And what is happening in this model? This model is what gives us the evaluation for both of them. In this experiment, we basically checked two models. In this experiment, we have several models. We have boosted decision trees, Poisson regression, and linear regression. And then we are cross-validating model between the free experiments. As you can see, you can have more than one experience on one canvas. So as many as you want, you simply run those experiments by clicking the run button. And this is how they are going to take from the raw data up to the evaluation and prediction model. We'll let it run, and while we'll check what actually happened with the results. So give me a second. Right here, we said about prediction model, and we will not review the math behind it about the exponential smoothing and about the linear regression that is behind it. In Power BI, it's actually single exponential smoothing is what we were doing, and in Azure machine learning, it was Poisson and linear regression. Adding information to our visualization, we did that, and now we need to explore our data. So we have the results already. How can we explain what predicted the results? So in October, the flights are becoming more and more delayed towards the end of the month. Maybe it's Thanksgiving, maybe it's weather conditions. This is something that can be checked pretty much manually in Power BI. We can see those correlations between several columns or several scatter plots, while in Azure Machine Learning, of course, this is something that we can see the correlation much better using the evaluation model. So to evaluate the predicted results, we will actually better use the Azure Machine Learning Lab and not the Power BI. Another option which we do have in Power BI is R. So I mentioned it during the demo on Power BI itself, is that we can, if we want something more sophisticated, we can always use the R language. And there are several blogs that are mentioned here where you can follow up the demo step by step, just like we did with Azure Machine Learning for this kind of prediction. Meanwhile, in Azure Machine Learning Lab, and this is what we did with the other tool, the exponential smoothing was removed, and this is why we were using linear regression. It was just not exact enough. So we split the data into sample and population, and this is what we did. And we are asking again what is the average lay time expected, and we chose the delay time around 15 minutes, and this was the one column that we were predicting on. The reason that we chose the around 15 minutes and we didn't choose the general arrival delay column is because there are many outliers. So, for example, for one flight that is late day and a half or canceled altogether, we can be experiencing outliers that are too big for us and will not predict the rest of them and will affect them so much more. This is something for more for the data science side of this whole predictive analytics model, to understand when those outliers happening, and there is a whole a whole lot of science behind that. There are many mathematical models, and we can do also visualize and many mathematical models behind this. One of the questions that I'm often asked, why did you choose those models? So frankly, because I believe they have the description better into that fits this model. However, there are other ways to classify and to choose the right model for this. Well, the way you're playing around with this, remember the validate model and the cross-validate model. So after this, we have got the evaluate model. After we evaluate and compare those 2, 3, 4 predictions, we can say which one did the best. So this is a great way to play around at home and see which one of your models for just this flight delay 15 minutes did the best results, and then use this model in the future. There are, of course, you can use math and understand if this was more of a random event, if it is more of grouping of classification, and so on. Yes, Q&A, data visualization for the prediction airport. So we can see by airport, we can see the histogram of the delayed data, and this is going to be after the evaluation model. We can choose simply by just choosing the little error that was below the model, the little dot, sorry, that was below the model with the output. We can see in the output of the prediction set what exactly were the delayed times by the airport. So we just, went through this. After the flight delay, after the model is run, we will get the scored models and we will get the scored data set. And you see the red line and the blue line. Those are the two data sets that we can compare between them, and they can be the model itself is only made in the comparison that we make in Power BI and in Azure Machine Learning between the sample that we chose and the entire population. And this just compares between the two models that we have chosen and tells us who predicted it better. So the blue model predicted it better than the red model, so we should probably use the blue model in here. So linear regression was better than Poisson if we are going to compare it. Now, as you can see, it's about the true positive rate. So what we expected the flight to be delayed 15 minutes, and it actually was delayed 15 minutes. And then the false positive rate, we expected the flight to be delayed 15 minutes, but it did not delay for 15 minutes. So this is great because we're getting to the summary slide, and we exactly have 4 minutes to the end, so we can even ask a few questions. So the summary slide is about Azure Machine Learning is for data scientists, while Power BI is for business users. The cycle is very different, although Power BI will have more emphasis on data visualization, while Azure Machine Learning is more about the prediction model itself. Data is the key for both of them, so eventually what you will have to do is bring the data to the model, clean the data, work with the data, visualize the data, and only after that do anything to predict with the model and so on. And of course, compare the models at the end of the day and see what works best for you. And comparing Power BI and Azure Machine Learning, eventually it's a little bit like apple and oranges. They complement each other more than compare between each other or compete with each other, because eventually you can take those this prediction, the prediction of which flights are delayed by airport, and visualize it very, very beautifully in Power BI, giving the business users the data-driven decision support they need, and not even getting them into Azure Machine Learning. And you can connect between those two using the trained and predicted model as published from in Power BI. So yeah, I guess that we are going to the question slides and Q&A. Let me see. Okay, how will I get all the material? This is a very easy question for a gender. All the material is online. There is place that I've uploaded my slide deck, and it is going to be connected as explained at the beginning of the slide of this slide deck. It's going to be connected to your to this presentation. And about the demos, it is also very simple. You can prepare them yourself by how we have described here. And basically go to the Azure Machine Learning Studio, open the saved data sets, and make this very, very four-step model of cleaning the data set, connecting to the data set, cleaning the data set, partitioning the data set for sample and population, and then use 2 or 3 prediction models of your choice according to the compatibility, of course, and run the model. Anil, on what and Power BI, get the CSV, download it from the Azure Machine Learning, from the model itself, when we have seen, and add line chart. This will be a time series chart eventually, and do add using the third module right here, the third menu model on the graph. This is our time series. Add the forecast for one. You can add more than one forecast, and so you can add trend lines, you can add minimum and maximum lines, and so on. So this is the way that you get how do we do the material. On what basis you say which model prediction is correct? There is no correct, there is better or worse predicting. So I'm saying this based on, in Power BI, I'm saying this based on basically comparing. If we had several models, we would have compared the last several last observations and see how good we did. In here, we basically have the cross-validation model, and we have the scored models. So there are several scored evaluate models. There are several ways to get it from here, from our score, from our models over here. You can see score, and you will see several ways to evaluate the model. And if we're going back to our presentation, I have a nice little slide here somewhere with the red and the blue. Give me a second. And we have a slide with the red and the blue that I've showed you that have the comparing the model. I'm sorry, I can't find the slide. Oh, there we go. So the flight delay model right there, scored model, the blue is better than the red because it predicts better what can be done. Okay, so this is model prediction. Okay. All right, so
Okay.
I suppose that's it for me.
Yes, Yana, so I have a couple of slides to end with. Let's wait for a while. I think there'll be a few more questions coming in from the audience. So meanwhile, I will finish the slides, and in the end, again, we'll take the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll just share my screen now.
Sure. Okay, so thank you, everybody. If there are more questions while Rohit is doing this presentation.
Yes, please. Friends, if you have any more questions, please use the Q&A panel, and you can write down your questions. And after this, Yana will be taking those questions and answering it. Okay, so Yana, thanks a lot first of all for waking up so early and delivering a wonderful webinar for our DPG community today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Yes, we are glad. So moving on, we have, if you have any questions beyond the webinar, you can put it down on our groups, like I mentioned, Facebook, LinkedIn, and on our Telegram groups. If there are any specific questions to today's webinar, we will be sending it to Yana, and then we'll get the revert back. So SQLMaestros Learning Solution, like I was mentioning earlier, we have the master classes, which we concluded recently and was a massive success. We had it on various Microsoft data platform technologies and like SSRS, Power BI, SSIS, Python, machine learning, data science, and whatnot. We have the SQL Server performance tuning video course that's coming out. It is a popular course by Amit Bansal that is coming out in video format for the first time. So go ahead and register yourself. It will most probably be releasing by April or May. So we have the unique hands-on labs. Since you're all DPG members, you can access some of the demos absolutely for free. And if you think it is something, it's a model that you would like to do, go ahead with, you can then register. We have the learning kits, which is again based on Amit Bansal's SQL Server performance tuning course. If you're ever in need of SQL Server health check, you can always write to us. This is our official website, SQLMaestros.com, where you will see a lot of these learning solutions, and then you can write to us at contact@SQLMaestros.com. Yes, so the DPS 2019 pre-cons, like I was saying, there will be 18 pre-cons spread across 3 days on August 19th, 20, and 21. So we have announced 16 pre-cons already with the speakers. So you will see a lot of sessions on Power BI by Peter Myers, who's an MVP from Australia, and Shiva Harinath, who's from Microsoft Redmond. They'll be doing a joint session. Then we have Ray Heavens and Shiva Harinath again. We have Azure, a lot of topics on Azure by Denny Chariot. We have data science by Ginger Grant and Anupama Natarajan, Damien Videra. We have SQL Server by Amit Bansal himself, and then Joey D. Anthony will be doing on deploying and maintaining SQL Server and architecting a modern analytics solution. So all of this with the demos and the abstracts, everything is up on our website, dps10.com. You just have to go to the pre-con section, and you will be able to see all of the 16 pre-cons. So go ahead and register yourself. Even if you're not sure which pre-con to pick from, you can just book a seat and then later on decide what pre-con suits you best. So data platform day. For a lot of your first timers, if there are any, we also organize in-person events. These are events that happen at Microsoft offices pan India. We do it in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, Pune, etc. Pune, we do it in different. If you don't find Microsoft, we do it in different offices like Chennai. That's coming up on March 30, this Saturday. We will be doing it in the Mindtree office. So if you are in Chennai, please do join us for a half-day event. We have sessions on Power BI and SQL Server and machine learning as well. So go to our events page at dataplatformgeeks.com/event. So all you have to do is the same thing all over again. You just have to go to the event that you want to attend and click on click to attend and receive a confirmation. So that's it from me. Just an important reminder once again, Data Platform Summit price increases on April 1st. So if you are wishing to join us, do register as soon as possible to get the best rate. And do join with your teams. If you would like us to invite your company, you can always write to us at contact@dps10.com and our team will get back in touch with you. So please do follow our Twitter handle at SQLServerGeeks.com. And like I said, the webinar will be uploaded in a few days time. So youtube.com/SQLServerGeeks is our official YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to that. And yes, that's it from me. Once again, thanks a lot for joining us. And thank you, Yana. Thank you so much. Let's see if we have any more questions.
So there is just about the freeware of Microsoft Azure Machine Learning Studio. So this is free. You can log into Azure and just to Azure Machine Learning Studio and start using it.
Right. So I think
there are a couple of questions in chat window. I'll read it out for you. Is there any way to find out relationship with the other databases using Power BI?
there is a way to find the relationship using Power BI. You can use R scripts as describing as described in the blogs that I've mentioned in the presentation. And this will be the relationship between the correlation, I would say, between what is actually happening in the event and one of the things, if it predicts good enough or not. So we said that for the total population, we've done it with the total delay time. So you can do it, for example, with weather is if weather is also changing, so you can do it through R script. You can also do it visually, basically put one plot and another plot. It's not a very good and more of a manual way, but it works. So those will be the two main ways. What else in the chat window that I've missed?
One more question. How to decide the model based on the final data result sets or some other factor?
Okay, so on the final data results, this is the easiest way. You basically compare what was validated. The way to decide which model is mathematical. So if it is more of classification, you will use k-mean clusters or will use other classification algorithm. If it is more about classification, that means if something is going to happen or not going to happen, or like I mentioned in the beginning about the data sets about the flowers, you probably remember. So they're using to classify which type of flower this is based on the flower that was picked, and some other parameters. If you are going to predict something that is most likely to happen and has a linear connection, you will use linear regression. It all depends which kind of event we're talking about. If it's more of a random event, it will be Poisson. Though this is more of a statistics. There are many essays about it. Just look applied statistics and how to choose the right statistic model to predict according to the data. So you need to know the data and to understand how its behavior in order to see what is the right model. When there are also seasonal models that are dealing with seasonality. So if you see that your data is dependent on the months, like the flight delay in October, late October we have more flight delays because it's more it's busier season, so this is clearly seasonality, and there are models that will predict it better than what we have done.
That's
yes,
all, Anna, for the day. That's all for the day. Thank
That's
you,
all?
Anna. Thank you for your time early in the morning.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too, Yana. Thanks a lot.